I'd like to introduce you to Jane and Nev Barber, otherwise known as my mom and my dad. In 1981, they immigrated here to the United States from England with the promise of a job and basically about $2,000 in their bank account. 3 years later, my dad came home and started to paint this dream idea for a business to my mom. Now at the time, my mom was 8 months pregnant with me. So after my dad had spent a couple hours painting this dream company for her, she looked down at her belly and looked back up, looked down at her belly again, and looked back up, thinking that my dad might reconsider this radical notion of starting a company when they were 8 months pregnant with their first child, and not a lot of pennies to their name at that time. But she managed to convince him otherwise, and 26 years later, and after selling or giving away 60% of the company to their employees, they sold that company for 30 million bucks. And so, like all entrepreneurs and small business owners, my dad came to my sister and the rest of the family and I and said, where do you want to go? Where should we go and reconnect as a family? And my mom had prepped my sister and I for this question, and we had been doing some thinking, so we looked over each other and looked back and said, Europe. So my dad spent the next few months planning this incredible vacation to Europe, planning all the details, where we were going, where we were going to stay, where we were going to eat. And just so happened that Italy was on that itinerary. And we were in Monteriggioni, which is this beautiful walled city just outside of Florence. If you get the chance to go to Italy, it is one of the best cities to just go visit. And we were sitting at this cafe in Monteriggioni, eating this delicious lunch spread, prosciutto and Malone, and this fantastic Diavola pizza, the best pizza that I've ever had in my life, spicy pepperoni pizza. And I was kind of thinking, how did this happen? How did the son of a truck driver and the daughter of a coal miner get here? How did they create this experience? So I just asked my dad, how'd you guys do this? Looked up at my mom and dad and said that. And my dad sat there and thought for a second, and he said, Bugalugs, because that's his pet name for me. He said, Bugalugs. We tried to be easier to do business with. We tried to remove the friction. And I was like, friction? What do you mean by friction? What has that got to do with business? And so my dad turned to my mom, and like every overprepared British mother, she dived into her Mary Poppins bag and produced a pen and a piece of paper. And my dad started to sketch something out for me. And he said this. Oh, we have got awesome feedback on this thing today. I'm just gonna, there we go. More friction equals more time wasted, equals unhappy people, equals less likely to do business. And I have this piece of paper from that conversation all these years ago. And it got me thinking. They couldn't be more right given the place that we live today. What is going on with this? Because time is all we have. They are more right than ever. We live in an age that's completely dedicated to things like this. We wake up in the morning and we don't turn to our loved ones. We don't get the kids up because they're already awake. We don't cuddle with the dog. We reach over and we do this. Grab our phones and constantly get distracted by this. This is the experience we have day in, day out. And a lot of those distractions are caused by us as marketers. We create a lot of issues for the companies that we work with and the customers that we work with. We continue to create these frictional moments for the organizations that we live in. And if you don't believe me, you've just got to look at a couple of these examples, such as this, the good old, we don't want to talk to you. I'm fascinated by this. If you look at the from name, it says, do not reply at starwoodhotels.com. Now, this actually comes from our friends just down the street at the Le Méridien Charlotte Hotel, so you can consider I probably spent a couple $100 at this hotel. And yet you can't reply via an email campaign. I can tweet at this hotel, I can tweet at Starbucks, I can tweet at Starwood Hotels, I can get on their Facebook page. Heaven forbid I can actually call them on their customer service line and have a real conversation, but you can't reply via an email. I don't understand how we do that as brands. Or this example. Getting lost in our navigations. This is Brooks Brothers. I don't know if you've been on their website over the last few months, but you basically have to go all the way to the bottom of the page to get out of that navigation. We continue to create some of these bad web experiences when everyone just wants to have a better experience on your website. Or this. This is my good friend, Jay Bear. Jay was my first boss out of college, and I was on Snapchat a couple weeks ago, and he posted this of an experience that he had.
Hey, I'm in Phoenix at the JW Marriott for the National Speakers Association conference. So here's what I don't understand. In this super nice fancy hotel, all they have for recycling is this sack. So the idea is, if I want to recycle something, water bottle, newspaper, I'm supposed to take this bag out, unfold it, and put stuff in it. Look, I'm in like 100 different hotels a year, and every single one of them has a recycling can. In many cases, a can with a split down the middle, one side for trash, one side for recycling. So how does Marriott, in this fanciest of hotels, get away with a sack that's kind of even hard to find and use and puts all the effort on me? You got to do better.
Jay makes an incredibly good point, right? We've got to create these experiences that make it as easy as possible to get our customers to do what they want, whether it's throw something in a trash bin in a recycle box, or whether they're on our website. Another example of this. Wow, we are having a good time tonight. For any of the agencies in the room, if you follow Lee Clow's Beard on Twitter, which Lee is the founder of TBWA Shy at Day, I love this tweet from this account. You can probably read it in the back because this is a great monitor. The first step in defending the white space in an ad is not to present it inside a 110-page PDF. Right? If we're going to sell ideas and we're selling some ideas, we've got to sell the context around that opportunity too and make it easy for that buying decision. Or something like this. How are customers supposed to read this email in tiny 8-point font that we have designed for them? This comes from our friends at Disney, which are supposed to be the best at customer experience, but you give them $300 for a half marathon, and this is the confirmation email that you get from them. Or this. I was on Instagram a couple weeks ago and found this brand called The Quiet Life, and I was like, okay, I want to check out this brand, so I'm going to go to their website and find out more. And this is the experience we had. Keep in mind, I'm a brand new customer. So the first thing that I'm confronted with here is that annoying pop-up related to getting their email. And this is happening on all of our websites, by the way, and we're doing nothing about it, not timing how many seconds they've been on the site. But then, if I get around that, I've got to actually accept the cookie notification because they're an EU company. So you've made me do two things just to get to know your brand. We can't create those types of experiences. I think I've got this angle down now. There we go. Or something like this. I don't know if you've been on a local newspaper's website lately, but you get experiences like this. Keep in mind, all someone wants to do, okay, we're just going to manually do this, and I'm going to step over here. Okay, all someone wants to do is read this website, yet they've got to give their current location first, then get to a crappy ad behind it, and then they get to your subpar article about whatever they cared about. 9 times out of 10, people are just going to go away. Or examples like this. How many of you been to Forbes.com in the last 10 years? No one wants the quote of the day. No one. Everyone just wants to press that button and get to Forbes. But then you get to Forbes, and you have this experience. A half-page ad that literally 0.0000001% of people are actually going to care about. All I want to do is read the Forbes content. Or this example. 72 hours, 10 emails from one brand, WTF. This brand is Jack Threads, which I'm actually a fan of, but on Black Friday, I started to notice a trend. On about the third email, it was like third email, it was what? 10:21 a.m. And I was like, I'm just gonna watch this. This is gonna be a fun day. And over the next 3 days, I got 10 emails from them. These are the first ones. These are the second 3. And those are the second 3, and those are the last 3. 10 emails from one brand. I didn't open one of them. I didn't give them any signal that I was engaged with the brand. I didn't go on their website that day. But 10 emails from one brand over 72 hours. Retailers think that they can get away with this. This is not what a customer wants, is you annoying them unless they give you a signal that they are actually interested in being annoyed. And because of those types of experiences, this is what has happened. You've started to see the devices and the internet service providers get really good at blocking our real estate inside of the inbox. So along with us over-emailing people completely, we've buried our unsubscribe links in tiny gray font all the way at the bottom because we're so afraid of people actually unsubscribing, right? So now all the devices do things like this. Don't know if you noticed in iOS 10 over the last few weeks and few months, but there's now a big banner right at the top that says, this is a promotional campaign, this is from a mailing list, unsubscribe, and they can instantly get out of your campaign. Gmail's been doing this for years, right? They've got the big old 150 by 150 pixel button at the top that says instant unsubscribe and mark as spam, because all of us are so afraid of losing customers. Do you know what happens if we take away the people that don't want to hear from us, but yet we still get the engaged audience that opens and clicks at the same rate? Those rates go up. They go higher. It's basic statistics. Or because of this, landing pages. These types of experiences. The only thing we want from people is this right-hand rail. Yet somehow 20 of us got in a room and came up with this design for a landing page. It really concerns me. Nobody cares about any of this. They just want to know what you're going to do for them and then give you a little bit of information. There we go. Okay, if you've been on Southwest lately, this is the experience you have to get to the entertainment options. So you have to put yourself in the shoes of a customer that's sitting on Southwest. They just got herded through the cattle call to get on Southwest. There's 14 children screaming around them. All they want to do is watch TV, and that's the ad that you gave them, because everyone wants to be in the mega minivan. I don't get it. And then you make it super hard for me to not give you your email address, because I'm so annoyed by the 30 seconds that you just took away from my life when I'm sitting on Southwest, completely annoyed by the experience that I just had. Hertz now has this sponsorship. Do you know what they do? They just put a little logo in the top saying, hey, thanks for watching. Here's your entertainment from Hertz. Much easier. So wouldn't the alternative be a little better? Or because business hours, this is a great example. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. In 2013, this guy named Hussein had a horrible experience from British Airways. He got on Twitter and he said, don't fly British Airways, their customer service is horrendous. This was back in the day when you could promote a Twitter ad, do a Twitter ad for like $1 and get 100,000 impressions pretty easily. So that's what he did. You can see he dropped in a little promoted dollars in there and got about 2 million impressions of this tweet. And the next morning, this is what the British Airways customer service team came back with, was this joyful response. Sorry for the delay in responding to our Twitter feed. Is open 0900 to 1700 GMT. Please DM your baggage reference and we'll look into this. At British Airways was his response. How does a billion-dollar corporation only have a 9-to-5 social media support for a business that operates 24/7? DM me yourselves. Yeah, these are the experiences that we're creating for people. And it's not just the big brands that are creating these types of issues, it's even smaller ones too, which I completely don't understand given the economy that we live in today and the fact that we are competing for our customers' opportunities and those sales. This example comes from a buddy of mine named Mike Shore. Mike Shore was getting wine from a company named Fast Selections. He was really not happy with the experience, so he just dropped him a tweet that said this: at Fast Selections, you bring in some great wines, but the hassle of your fulfillment and shipping process almost makes it not worth it. So this is the stuff we like to see from customers, right? Feedback that allows us to improve as brands. These are the things we're all looking for, customer feedback. We ask for feedback on surveys. We give away dollars for surveys and prizes for surveys, but we can get feedback right on Twitter, and you think, okay, this is some feedback that I can take. But no, Mike got an email from Lyle Fass himself that said this: I have blocked you on Twitter, please delete the tweet. Yeah, and within 5 minutes that had 91 retweets and 98 loves because Mike had posted it. And then he got this email because he posted the last email from Mr. Fass. Mike, so you are not hassled by our shipping process and decided to air out your grievances on Twitter, I have decided to cancel your order. You will be 100% refunded and taken off the list and not allowed to ever buy from Fast Selections again. Sincerely, Lyle. For all the dollars that we're competing for eyeballs and for our customers, that is the experience you give people. Or this. This web experience really gets to me, and for a particular reason. So this is B Naturals, which is a mom and pop owned animal natural pet food store. It's a mouthful, sorry. And I order a bunch of products from here because I have 2 Westies. White-skinned dogs have terrible allergies, so we have to give them things that help those allergies. Now, I've been going to this site for about 9 months, and every single time I go to the site, I get completely lost on the products that I'm looking for because, look, that's the experience. So I was like, I got to call the guy who owns this and just ask him, hey, have you thought about improving the site? So just dropped an email in the contact us form saying, hey, I use your site as an example on a presentation. I'd love to talk to you about, what we do and just get your feedback on the site. And so about question 5, I realized that there was absolutely no business opportunity with this guy, but I really wanted to get some insights on how this site performs. And I said, could you tell me how much revenue that you do off of this site a year? And he goes, $5 million. And I was like, literally, like if 2 of us from this room got together and came up with a plan for this website, he'd probably do $50 million every single year. I don't understand how we create these types of experiences given what's out on the web these days. Or this. This comes from our good friends at Comcast. Let me give you a little context for this conversation. This is a recording of a gentleman who's just trying to cancel his internet. He's been on the phone at this point for 10 minutes into the call itself. Listen to the conversation. It's a little iffy at the beginning, but it clears up.
Actually, by the end of next week, your internet will be 105 megabits per second for your internet. Astound will not give you that speed.
Okay, we'd like to disconnect. We'd like to disconnect, please.
Okay, so why is it that you don't want the faster speed? Help me understand why you don't want faster internet.
Help me understand why you can't just disconnect us.
Because my job is to have a conversation with you about keeping your service, about finding out why it is that you're looking to cancel the service.
I don't understand. Is this
if
for
you don't want to talk to me, you can definitely go into the Comcast store and disconnect your service there. Okay,
we're just asking for you to
kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You got to return that cable card to the store anyways.
So this conversation goes on for 8 more minutes. That's just the 10 seconds that I showed you after 10 minutes. If you heard what the rep said, he said, well, why don't you just kill 2 birds with 1 stone and take your cable box in as well, because you're going to have to cancel that too, and then you can cancel with them. Just completely passes the buck after 10 minutes, after his job is to have a conversation with you about why he should keep the internet service. Now, if this guy who's canceling his service goes to that new provider and it's terrible and it's slow and it's exactly what the Comcast guy said it is, if he hadn't have had this experience, he may come back to Comcast. But it doesn't matter at this point. After this conversation, he is never going back to Comcast ever again. Why do we create these experiences for customers? And even the biggies get this wrong. So this is iOS 9's music app. I don't know if you noticed, but when we shifted to iOS 10, it was a massive redesign around music. And this was because they introduced streaming in iOS 9. And what happened when they introduced streaming is because they were trying to push people to the streaming opportunities, they had to shrink all the buttons on iTunes Music by about 20%. When they did that, revenue from singles went down almost 14%. So even the biggies are trying to think about things, don't think things all the way through and cause real detrimental harm to their bottom line. You will notice that all these buttons got bigger in iOS 10 because of that issue. Sometimes we think differently even about product design, and I don't understand why this happens. So this example comes from here, right in Raleigh. I was presenting at Internet Summit and literally took this recording, posted it on Snapchat, grabbed the recording for my presentation at Internet Summit, just listen. But side note, it obviously takes something a little bit to do this. That's happening on my head. So this is what comes out of that situation.
So I'm in my hotel room in Raleigh, and of course I have to, hair dry this thing to make it do this. And I encountered this interesting piece of friction. You see that blue button there? Normally you press and hold for the cold air, but this morning I turned this on and it was just completely cold. When I realized that this actually has to be touched again to get rid of that cold air and go back to the warm air. Why do we make that hard? It's got to have something on it that would show me like, hey, push and click. Whereas every other hairdryer is just push and hold. That's friction.
Now, every woman in the room or gentleman that uses a hairdryer knows what I mean. You press the blue button and you hold the blue button for cold air. I had never experienced a hairdryer where you pressed and let go and it would be that. So I'm getting ready in Raleigh at like I think it was at the Sheraton for that particular conference. Keep in mind, I'm probably about half an hour away from this presentation. I plug in the hairdryer, I turn it on, it's 100% cold. What's going through my mind is, oh, this is gonna look terrible today. So I'm like, what is going on with this hairdryer? And I finally figure out that it's the blue button. And it's not press and hold, it's press and click. But there's no depiction of that, there's no illustration, there's no feedback, no haptic feedback on the press and hold, right? So this product designer was like, press and click will be better than press and hold, but every other hairdryer on the marketplace is press and hold. And you create that experience, me freaking out about my hair. Sometimes we don't have to think differently because everything should be the same. Or this. This was a great example. I was in LA staying at a hotel. It's called the Hotel Angelino, and this is the key to get into the room, okay? The reason why it's circle is because their hotel is literally circular, and that is their tagline, "We are not square." And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then I get into my room and I go to put my room key in my wallet because everybody puts their room key in their wallets or something along those lines. Okay, wallet ends right there. So there's like a good 1/4 inch that sticks out of my wallet 24/7. And I'm like, really, some creative brand person was like, yeah, it should be circle. But keep in mind, it doesn't fit anything. This doesn't even fit in a regular credit card hole. It fit in the money hole. It didn't fit in the credit card hole. That is friction. Sometimes we just do things for the sake of doing them because we think they're creative when they shouldn't be that way. Please tell me why. Or this. I was in Harrah's, New Orleans 2 weeks ago presenting at the Customer Experience Council. I got on the Wi-Fi and I put in my email address and some fake number because I'm not going to give Harrah's my phone number. And I get this error message. Please enter a valid email address. You will note that is a valid email address, uabarber@gmail.com. And I was like, what? I literally pressed this 3 times and it came back with this error. So I go back to the field and what I realized is there is a space after my email address. And it errors out because there's a space. There are like 40,000 ways that we can make that not happen in the background, so it's not an error. But I've got to believe that 100,000 people have gone to Harrah's in New Orleans, wanted to get on the Wi-Fi. Harrah's wants that email address so they can market to those people, and they put a space on the end of their email address, and they become so frustrated, they're just like, cancel, I'm out of here. Why do we create these experiences for customers? I really don't understand. And here's what happens. When these points of friction happen, when someone experiences something like any of one of the experiences that I've showed you, whether it's a product, a marketing, an experience, an organizational issue, I'm going to let this guy tell you exactly what they do. Dramatic pause. There we go. Go for it, George. We bury our heads in the hand, and then the next thing we do is we look for the least path of resistance, which is often your competitor, right? They go somewhere else that's more simple to do business every single time. In an age where time is all we have, when it's the most valuable human asset that we've got to ourselves because of everything that we're distracted by and everything that's going on in our lives, they move on to that next competitor. So how do we create a framework around reducing this friction in our organizations? I'm going to give you 5 ways that I think that we can do that. The first of which is contextual. And this is this idea that we respect people's mediums. We live in an age where we have a vast amount of different mediums at our disposal, whether we're connected online or whether we're in a store or whether we're on a mobile app or whether we're on a mobile website or a smartphone or something along those lines. We have to allow any experience that we create for customers to be contextually relevant for the medium that they're sitting in. So some examples of how we do that. 2, from delivering content where people are. We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and a bunch of resources and time developing content marketing plans and pushing out all this content. And often the place where we fall down is the experience to get to that content. 2 examples, Facebook Instant Articles, which is one, right? Any of the content that we're doing on Facebook, we can actually serve. This product's out of beta. You can instantly serve any of your image, video, or text-based content right within the Facebook platform. We don't have to have customers wait 4 or 5 seconds for our product pages or our website to load. This is completely out of beta. Anyone from the mommy blogger up to an enterprise level organization can use instant articles. they instantly serve that page rather than someone having to wait to get to your subpar site. Google's also doing this as well. It's called the Google AMP platform, or Accelerated Mobile Pages. This is still in beta, but it's going to be coming out of beta in the next few weeks. What it allows you to do is what you just saw there. Anybody will be able to serve their text-based or image or video-based content instantly out of search results, rather than having to filter through or get to your website and have that slow experience, because this is what those platforms care about, experiences and time over anything. So they're bringing these opportunities to brands right now that you can take advantage of. Be where they happen to be. Another example around Facebook that I love. Often when we have links on our Facebook pages or from our Facebook ads, we're giving them a really bad experience around the Facebook actual app itself. I love this example from Beta Brand, because what they do is if you go to any page within Beta Brand's site and you're coming from the Facebook app, they wrap the entire experience so that you can have any action that they would like you to take right within those 400 or so pixels that are between the Facebook app top and bottom bar. Right, so they don't make the size of the ad when you're inside of Facebook, the size of their website, any bigger so that someone doesn't have to scroll and find anything. The entire experience works within the confounds of the app itself. We've also got to take advantage of native display opportunities and ad opportunities within these platforms. So some of you are probably spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on Facebook ads. These are canvas ads. They serve instantaneously rather than having to wait on your ad to actually serve. You can have video, you can have live text experiences, you have contextual experiences where people turn their phone and see different 360-degree images, all within Facebook that are served instantaneously. This is off a Wi-Fi connection. So they don't have to take that time to jump from your ad. They can have the experience of your landing page right within the canvas opportunities of Facebook. And this isn't just for enterprise-size organizations. Anyone, from somebody that's got a $5 to a $5 million budget on Facebook, can create a canvas ad. It's all built into the platform. Or something along these lines, doing display a bit differently. I love this example from Geico. Now we all know we get super terrible click-through rates on our display ads. It's something like 0.001% is the average click-through rate on a display ad these days. But what Geico's doing here is they're being relevant to the behavior of the phone, right? Facebook's taught us to use our thumb for everything, and you're seeing the ad shift as the thumb comes down the actual page itself. So they're taking some of that contextual relevance and trying to just get your attention by moving the ad as you swipe through. You can also take this to the next level as well. This is a great example from Vice. If you've been on their site lately, you can get to some ads that kind of look like this, almost like the Facebook Canvas angle, right? You've got a display ad. This actually works around the actual relevancy of where the phone is tilted. So if your phone is tilted down, you'd see the floor. As you tilt up, you get to the sky, and you can see the entire experience around this ad. These are all things that about 90% of ad networks can do these days. So you've got to leverage that context, because people are looking for these experiences rather than just the flat display ad that we've all come to know and well. So that's contextual. The second C is convenient. And this is this idea that we make it all too easy to do business with our organizations. One example to take a look at for you. This first one from, there we go. Don't make it too hard to find those products. This example comes from Google, showing off dog food. When we've got the opportunity to sell products, we've got to sell them in places where people are looking for them. 80% of our journeys online as customers start on a search engine. Google allows any e-commerce provider to suck in product feeds that instantly serve their products right within relevant keywords, such as dog food, right? I don't need to go to Blue Buffalo's site to do that. I can just serve in a product ad right in a product feed right into Google, and they can have that experience right there, and it transacts right through my e-commerce experience, rather than having to have someone and compete for the organic listing or for a paid listing and then hop over to my site, have a bad experience, take 15 minutes to check out. They can check out and get that product right through Google product feeds. Etsy is doing this for all of their sellers. So this isn't just big organizations that are happening with them around product feeds. Any Etsy seller these days can create an easy XML feed that goes right into Google products. So anybody that's looking for these creative or one-of type mom and pop little creations, trinkets, jewelry pieces, can find that right within those Google shopping feeds. And Etsy is automating that whole process. So you're going to see a massive explosion of products coming up on Google product feed. Or be where people are. We know people are spending an inordinate amount of time on social media, yet we continue to push people to other places, to our sites. Why don't we go where they are? I love this example from Store & More, which is a store that's out of Kuwait. They post 3 products a day, and they sell entirely through Instagram. They do not have a .com. You pay through the Instagram platform itself. Now, the US commerce laws don't allow us to do this quite yet, but you've got to believe that Instagram and Facebook are figuring out ways that they can monetize these product opportunities right within their app, so they can skiff off just a tiny piece of that percentage from all the products that are being shared on Instagram. Another example of this: don't invent the infrastructure if you don't have to. This is one of my friends in LA. He runs a meal prep service. His name is Javier. All he does every single week is post the 3 images of the food that he'll be serving through his meal prep service. Puts it on Instagram, entirely transacts either via mealprepbyabraham@gmail or that phone number that you see right there, all through a text-based and PayPal. He doesn't have a .com. He doesn't need to invent the infrastructure. It's all within that meal prep Instagram profile. He has 20,000 followers. He sells out every single week, guaranteed. Doesn't have to pay a dime to be on this service, to have that experience. Oreo did this as well this year. They actually sold custom-based Oreos via Facebook. Another example: if we've got data on people of what they've bought, because they've bought probably a few things from you, your loyalist customers are probably buying the same thing, or at least having a consistent buying experience, try and save them time with things like this example. This is Bonobos. They're a men's-only online fashion retailer. These are Bonobos jeans. I'm a big fan. A couple of months ago, they started doing this. The one thing you want to pay attention to is this button down at the bottom. It says shop size large. Now, what Bonobos understands is that men do not like to go shopping. We like to get in, get out, and be done with it, okay? That's the same theory they're taking to their .com. They know that guys don't want to spend a lot of time choosing their sizes and going through all the selections. So they're like, hey, because we know you've bought size large over the past year or so, we'll take 5 seconds off your shopping experience just by making that relevant to you, utilizing the data, utilizing what they've purchased in the past. Now, I'm not saying this works for all genders, right? But if we have data on customers that we can make the call to action that much easier, we should be trying to integrate those opportunities as well. So that's the second C. The third C is consistent. And this is this idea that you make the experience the same all the time, regardless if it's offline or online, in retail, right? We create a consistent brand experience regardless of where our customers are. Some great examples of this, one of them also being Bonobos. What Bonobos does, I think, is really interesting. You have no surprises ever. They use the same brand language, the same brand voice, the same experience, whether you're on their website, whether you are in one of their retail stores, which are called guide shops, or whether you're talking to one of their customer service agents, which they call ninjas, on Twitter, whether you're having a conversation with someone at HQ about your shipping or some issue that they're having. Everybody has a shared nomenclature. The site looks almost like their guide shops. The guide looks like the guide shops look like the site. All the ninjas and everyone inside of the organization talks exactly the same. They have institutionalized the way that they talk and the way that they actually have an experience with customers. We've got to be training people on what our brand should be doing, the feeling that we want to bring to customers, so that they are not surprised when they come to our website, that it doesn't feel like a different experience when they come into our stores or when they're on the phone or having a conversation with us online. Another good example of this, although albeit annoying, is IKEA. Anybody been in an IKEA in the last few years? Probably a few of us. Do you have an IKEA here in Raleigh? It's coming. Okay, so you will all have this experience soon enough. Okay, if you have not been in an IKEA, this is how an IKEA store is laid out, okay? Every single IKEA store from Sweden to Timbuktu is laid out the exact same way. And it's a maze. And it feels a bit annoying, but it's purposeful for a reason. It means you can find where the products are. Once you've been in the store once, they don't shift anything around. All of their products are in the same place, so that if you want to go find that living room piece or that kitchen piece, you're going right to the same spot. They're not shifting anything around. It's the same consistent experience wherever they are. It allows a simple organizational process for their employees and allows a simple experience for everyone that's coming in as a customer. It's the same experience regardless of where you go. Now, this idea around consistency doesn't mean you have to be perfect. You have some really great coffee shops here in Raleigh, so I can say this, but Starbucks, as we all know, is not like the greatest coffee in the world. We can kind of all agree on that. It has its moments. I was in Seattle a few weeks ago giving this presentation, and I said that, and it was like the whole room went silent. And I was like, shoot, I'm in Seattle, aren't I? I didn't get that memo. Anyway, here's the deal. Regardless of whether you're in Shanghai or whether you're here in Raleigh or whether we're back in LA, I can get a Pike's Place roast and it tastes exactly the same. It's the same roast, the same beans. It's exactly consistent wherever I go. Their brand experience online, their brand experience in their store usually is almost the same experiences. There are no surprises. Doesn't matter if you have a subpar product. You've got to give the consistent experience when someone's having an experience with your brand. So that's consistency. The next, or fourth C, is called connected, and that's this idea that we enable seamless experiences regardless of where people are or touch our brand. There is nothing, nobody else in the room except us talks about offline and online. That's a nomenclature that only marketers have. Customers don't care. They want to have a consistent and connected experience regardless of where they are. Probably the king of this is Amazon. How many people are an Amazon Prime member? Probably a lot, right? It doesn't matter if you're on your website, whether you're calling them, God forbid, or using their app, or on their smartphone or tablet app. It is the same experience. I can always see my account. I can always see what I've bought. It's always the same experience wherever they're on, because people don't care about offline and online. They just want a connected experience of where they're going. And they're now bringing this experience into store. I don't know if you've seen this video, but take a listen.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So, how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology.
There's like way too many marketing acronyms in that.
Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
So they've rolled this technology out in Seattle, and they're now opening a store in San Diego that will do this. And they've tapped into 3 ideas here. Number 1, you always buy the cupcake. Number 2, you're saving time. And number 3, what Amazon realizes is the worst part of the grocery store shopping experience is going through the line, whether you have an attendant or whether you've got to use the self-checkout, right? They're saving people time, they're having a consistent experience, they're leveraging everything that they've done over the past 15 or 16 years to give them these types of experiences. It is no wonder that Amazon is beating every retailer at their own game, because they are taking everything that they can do and make it as easy as possible for someone to get the toilet paper, the protein powder, the diapers as seriously and as timely as possible. And, oh, there we go. The other brand that's done this quite well is, and one that's just around your corner, is Lowe's. Lowe's spent a significant amount of money over the last 15 to 18 months completely re-architecting their back-end infrastructure of, there we go. Sorry, I'm making sure this works. Completely re-architecting the back-end infrastructure of their technology stack. And the one thing that I think that is genius that's come out of this is for their app, they track all of your purchases. And the one thing that they can do is once they track your purchase, they can tell you where that tiny little screw that just broke on your barbecue is in store and give you turn-by-turn directions. So I can go in store, find that piece, and it will tell me exactly which bin and which aisle that it is in, and give me turn-by-turn inside of Lowe's right there. Because we've all been in Home Depot, or we've all been in Lowe's looking for that 1/8 of an inch screw that only fits for our barbecue. So they've tapped into these little things that can help people just do business with them as easy as possible. The last C, and probably the most important, is compassionate. And this is this idea that we have empathy always. We need to be able to train and give frontline employees and anybody that's touching a customer the ability to have compassionate experiences with our brands. If we've learned anything over the last 4 or 5 weeks from brands like United and the like, we've learned that we've got to be able to give employees the ability to give these compassionate and empathetic experiences. These are just some great examples that I've seen over the last few years. The first of which has come from Domino's. We know Domino's has spent an inordinate amount of time over the last couple years changing everything from their recipes, but they've also done that from a technology infrastructure technology infrastructure experience as well. They've done that to try and tap into trending around their most loyal customers. One such customer was Kirk Alexander. Kirk Alexander was ordering 3 to 4 pizzas a week from his local Domino's. What this new technology stack allowed Domino's to do is track when that behavior stopped. And the franchisee who owned that Domino's, that Kirk Alexander was buying 3 to 4 pizzas from a week, saw that he had dropped off. After 2 days, he had not ordered a single pizza. That hadn't happened in 18 months. Now, we can all have a raging debate of how healthy having 3 to 4 pizzas a month is. But what that franchisee did is he called Kirk Alexander, couldn't get through to him, called him 3 or 4 times, no answer on the phone. So he said to the delivery driver that was going out on his next run, hey, can you stop by Kirk's house and just see if he's alive or living? Delivery driver goes out to Kirk's house, bangs on the door, hears moaning, calls the police. Ambulance comes, they break down the door. Kirk had an brain aneurysm and was just lying on the floor moaning. He'd been there for almost 18 hours, and he survived because the Domino's system alerted the franchisee to say, this loyal customer has stopped ordering from you. So even things like these types of opportunities that we can save lives and have opportunities to really impact our most loyal customers can have dramatic experiences on our brands. Now, doing news shouldn't have to be, oh, I don't want you to see that yet. Doing right for our customers doesn't have to be news all the time. We've got to allow employees to give these experiences whether we're promoting them or not. This example comes from New York. It was just after the postal pipe bombings. Starbucks manager that actually run the store right in front of where the postal bombings occurred could not get a hold of 2 employees to tell them that the store would be enclosed indefinitely until the investigation was done. So he went over to the store to be able to find these employees and tell them, hey, you're not going to be working today. He had stood there about 90 minutes and noticed that all of the NYPD and the NYFD had not received any drinks, water, food. There was no sustenance around for them, and they were just standing there. So he walked around the corner to the Starbucks, because there's 14,000 Starbucks in New York City, walked in and said, hey, friend, he knows the manager there, says, can you give me some food and drinks for the guys that are around the corner doing the investigation? And there happened to be a guy just standing there watching this experience, and this is what he recorded.
23rd and 5th, I wanted to give y'all some coffee and some pastries, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, man.
Some milk there, free.
Thank you, dude.
I gave y'all about 3 coffee choppers.
Thanks a lot, man.
No problem, man. I wish I could give a little more, but
nah, man, this is awesome.
Cups of sugar in there.
Thank you so much, man.
It looks like a few pastries, you know, y'all can all share in there also.
All right, cool. Thank you, man.
All right, no problem, man. Y'all enjoy, man. Thank you, guys.
What's your name, man?
My name is Jermaine.
Man, Rob, thanks a lot, man.
Nice to meet you, man.
Thanks, Jermaine.
Yeah, man, I'm right there on 23rd and 5th, man.
Thank you, dude.
All right, thank you.
23rd and 5th?
Thank you.
So what he says to those officers is, if you need anything else, just go to 23rd and 5th. The manager there knows you guys don't have anything. He'll give you whatever you want. That, as videos you will see if I back up one slide. Come on, there we go. 13,000 comments, 233,000 shares, and 7.9 million views when I pulled it down less than 24 hours later. Just because a blogger that happened to be standing next to that employee sees this happen and hands over that coffee, Starbucks gets all this positive news. Now, it can be news as well, such as this from Delta. Flying Delta means comfort. That means you can wear leggings. I don't know if you recall, but United kicked off several people off a flight because they happened to be traveling on an employee's code on their ticket, and you have to be dressed in a certain, I guess, non-casual attire when you're on an employee's ticket. You cannot be in leggings. And so Delta found this very, very funny joke and allowed them to be a little bit newsworthy, right? Giving these opportunities to have compassionate experiences. Probably the brand that goes above and beyond almost every single day is Southwest Airlines, and they show it time and time again. One of these examples comes from one of their Denver crews. So Peggy was on a flight from Denver to San Diego. Her husband called Southwest Airlines and let them know, because she had already turned her phone off, that her son had just had a car accident and was in a coma. They didn't know if he was going to live, and he didn't want her to get on that plane and spend the next 2 hours going to San Diego. He wanted to get her as fast as possible to where his son was in a hospital. Southwest found out about this. they made a call down to the Denver office. The Denver office called the pilot. They had already pulled away from the gate and were taxiing out to the runway. The pilot made the decision, because he was allowed to by Southwest to do this, to bring the airplane back. They called her name, brought her off the plane, told her what had happened, rebooked her to get her a direct flight to where her son was in the hospital, because they had allowed captains to make that decision. Almost any other airline doesn't allow their captains to do it. Once you've pulled away from the gate, you're not going anywhere else. But Southwest allowed this to happen. And when I say empathy, I mean extreme examples. This could be on your off time too. It could be allowing employees to give these experiences, whether they're on the job or not. Take a listen.
So I was running in Chicago to get to the plane, and I made it, but my luggage did not. I had a Ragnar relay the next morning, really in a matter of hours, and all of my running gear was in this bag. I trained for 2 months for this race, and knowing that I didn't have any of the equipment I needed, I just was devastated.
I was out here by the carousel, and I asked, everybody, do you have your bags? And this one particular lady, she was like, I don't see my bag. And I said, okay, are you sure? And she said, yes. And I said, okay. I said, let's look again. I took her on the inside to check, because we do have bags that came in early, and noticed that her bag was not there.
There were no stores open. I didn't know what to do. I was at my wit's end. All I had were the clothes on my back. So here's the culmination, and I'm realizing that this race isn't going to happen, and I'm going to let down the other 11 people on my team. So this is starting to sink in, and I just lose it.
I pulled her to the side and I said, hey, I understand where you're coming from, because I was in the military for almost 30 years.
When she told me she was a Marine veteran, I took pause for the first time and thought, well, if anyone can make it happen, she can make it happen.
Then she said, I guess I have to go to Walmart to buy some shoes. And I said, no, that is not an option. I will get your bag to you.
And then I cried all over again, because I was like, I couldn't believe that this human being was so kind and so cool. And she drove 3 hours one way to deliver my bag in the middle of a muddy field in the Cumberland Mountains, so that our team could meet the other van and continue with our relay race.
Shedding the tears that she shed and being passionate about what she really was trying to do, I felt like that was the least I could do, was try to help her out as much as I could.
And so when she got there, I can't even describe the feelings that I had. I was so excited, and I was overwhelmed with emotion, and my whole team was so excited.
I just fell in love with her whole team, because if she had not run her race, they would have to pick up the hours that she would have to run.
She said, all I ask is that you run fast. So we ran like hell.
If I was in the military, I would do the same thing, because I never leave anyone behind. That's what I was brought up as. That's what we were taught and trained to do. So whatever I can do to make it easier for you, that's what I would do.
I think a lot of this is intrinsically who Reese Howard is, and I love that Southwest realized that and brought her on board. And it definitely speaks to the value of hiring a veteran.
I walk through those doors every day knowing that I'm here to serve and help people. And that's what I've always been doing for almost 30 years. So, getting accolades and stuff is not what I strive to do when I'm doing stuff for people. It's just, it comes from the heart. Because if the shoe is on the other foot, I would want somebody to do the same thing for me. The story that you told to Southwest, for them to reach out to me, that means a lot to me.
This is when you get the tissues out.
It made me cry.
It does. Because I try so hard to make a difference.
You make a difference. When you showed up, I will never forget that feeling. I was like, here is a human being that just really cares. I mean, I can tell your team loves you.
I try.
Oh, God.
There are 2 lessons in this video for us as brands. One, we have to allow employees to be able to create these experiences, right? Telling frontline employees that it's okay to create an opportunity that we can tell these types of stories. And 2, the ability to tell them like Southwest does. This doesn't take a big budget like Southwest. There are plenty of pet shelters, mom and pop stores that are telling these types of stories that they have. We just have to give employees the ability to provide those experiences in a way for our customers to be able to tell them, or even our employees to be able to tell them too. Okay, so let's recap. 5 C's, the first of which is contextual. This is this idea that we design for people's lives, or we just simply stop. In an era where the easiest path to our companies wins, we have to be where they want to be, not where just we want to be as a brand. The second C is convenient, and that's the idea that we make it all too easy to do business with our companies, because they're going to take the other option, which is your competitor, if you make it too hard. The third C, when it decides to come up, there we go, it's consistent. And this is this idea that we have the same experience all the time, regardless if they're offline, online, in your stores, talking to a customer care representative. Whatever they're doing, they've got to have a shared language. They've got to have a shared way of having that experience with a customer, because customers want to have that consistency with your brands. They don't want to be surprised. And when they feel that consistency, they will come back. It's a familiar experience for them. The fourth is connected, and this is this idea that we enable seamless experiences. If I log into your app, your website, or wherever I am, if I walk into your store, you should know who I am as that buyer. And the last is compassionate. This is this idea that we allow our employees to provide these compassionate experiences wherever they are, whether they're doing that on the job or allowing them to do it off the job, so that we can tell these stories, because people care that we care about them. As all the examples that we've shown over the past few weeks from United, from Delta, from all of these issues over the last few weeks has shown us that compassionate brands will win out, because people will share those best stories as well. Because this is the lesson. As humans, time is all we have. It's our biggest, most valuable human asset, and more than ever, my mom and dad are right. If you want these slides, there's the link, and I'm happy to answer questions or comments. Thanks for listening, guys.
So, Michael, first question. How do we start making that change? Is it through hiring right? Is it through top-down? What's your recommendation on how to start making these changes?
So the easiest way is top-down. You've got to have senior leadership that's bought into this idea of frictionless experiences more than anything. So if you are a business owner, or you sit at the C-level or the VP or director level, you've got to be institutionalizing these ideas. Whether you use these terms or not, I don't really care, but you've got to be institutionalizing this idea that the easiest path that we can create for customers is often the most winning path. Because if the idea that time is the most valuable human asset, and people want time back to be able to have their lives, take care of their kids, go on those vacations, and we're wasting their time with these bad experiences, it's got to come usually from the top down. That being said, I don't believe it necessarily has to come down from the top down. It can be allowing individual teams to make these decisions, right? And providing a management saying to them, if you can create these opportunities, show us, test it, and come back to us and allow us to do it, right? So if we have, and we've empowered employees to do that, we can hopefully allow them to take those learnings and actually improve the process inside the organizations too.
What if the Domino's pizza guy, customer who ate so many pizzas, got his aneurysm because he was eating so many pizzas?
Very well could have been the case. I'm certainly not advocating for 3 to 4 pizzas a week by any stretch of the imagination. It could have been the cause, but at least the technology saved him as well. What other questions can I answer?
Raise your hands, will bring the mic.
What am I working on next? So we are working with a company out of Santa Monica called Vet On Demand, which is having some of these issues as well. Vet On Demand is trying to be the FaceTime of vets. If you've got a dog or a pet or a parrot or a snake or anything, you know it costs, what, like $30 to $70 just to take your pet in for an initial visit. What Vet On Demand is trying to do is revolutionize that by bringing vets through FaceTime as easy as possible through a subscription model. And one of their frictional issues is that, unlike most of the major apps that are out there, I don't know if anybody's logged out of and deleted Facebook or any one of the major social media apps lately. I just did this a few weeks ago, reinstalled it. But one of the most amazing things Facebook does is walk new users through their app. It's literally, there's hover states and different colors and shows you, here's how you do this, here's how you do that, here's how you do second. Almost every other organization, even enterprise level organizations, don't create those types of experiences, right? How do you show people the easiest path to actually using the platform that you're on? So they're going through that process now of how we show people to get them to actually buy as it relates to that particular app. Yeah.
I wanted.
It's all official.
I wanted to tap into something while you're here. You mentioned instant articles, and I can't remember what the Google one is called.
AMP, Accelerated Mobile Pages, yeah.
And I know with Facebook instant articles, they are really integrative in the way that they open up and they're quicker and it's a lot faster. But I'm worried, I mean, as long as it's free, it doesn't matter at the moment. But with net neutrality being the way that it is, this would be a great way to then, you know, charge people because their websites maybe won't be able to keep up with the fact that they have to.
Absolutely. Yep.
Is that something you're concerned about?
Sure. You look at anywhere that Amazon and Google and Facebook going, they're all trying to own the entire experience that the web provides. They're trying to take away the ownership of the web basically, and the hosting environment of the web so that they can democratize it. What it's asking brands to do is get better before, or match the speed opportunities that are out there, because your sites can load that quickly. You've just got to spend the dollars on a CDN or be on the AMP platform or be on Google's new cloud service or on Amazon Web Service and to be paying to have that experience, right? Anybody can do that. It's about having the expenditure to do it, or at least caring about that expenditure. Am I worried? The answer to that question is yes. But if we're trying to get to our customers and we know they're spending time in these places, then we've got to at least be there in the easiest way possible that we possibly can be. I don't think that I don't think there will be a day, at least in the next decade, where everything will be transacted amongst those 3 platforms. But they may be skiffing off the experience around any one of the tactics that we've talked about, right? Take, for example, email, okay? I see brands all the time just destroying the email channel every single given day, whether it's too much email, whether it's spam, unethically getting into our inboxes, having a bad experience, not targeting me, not using any data to understand who I am. One of the things that we know is coming from Gmail over the next probably year or two is commerce straight out of the inbox. If you look at what Apple's doing, they're making Wallet integrated almost every single digital touch point that we can have. Just look at iOS 10. iOS 10 brought the wallet to websites, so I can now purchase, doesn't have to be on my phone, I can buy anything through my Apple Wallet through a website. They're going to bring that to an offline perspective. They're going to allow even brands to actually integrate from an email campaign. So for the sake of an example, that Bonobos example that says shop size large, at some point Gmail is going to put a little cart on the right-hand side. You're going to be able to press that button and check out, and I won't even have to go to Bonobos' website because Gmail wants just a piece of that revenue. Google and all these platforms are kings of just getting a little bit of a piece. But for all of us that have abused the email channel, you're not going to get rewarded. So it behooves brands to give better experiences, because if we are moving in that direction, we've got to at least be able to go with the tides and be able to transact where customers are, which are in their inboxes, on Facebook, on Snapchat, on Instagram, on these platforms, depending upon the demographic that you're targeting, right? We've got to be able to give them the least path of resistance to buy a product from us. If that means giving up some of the experience to some of these third-party players, then unless you're doing something that is radically different than any other brand out there, you're going to have to buy some of the space, or you're going to have to give them some of the revenue, because they're the ones that are going to be the channels to the customers, because they've simply done a better job than we have as brands. So we've got to meet them there. Does it mean that I think that our ownership of .coms and the experience around those are going to go away? No, because we still have to tell brand stories. We still have to give an experience. We still have to story tell as brands, regardless of whether they're understanding what our product is on Amazon or our own .com. But it means we're going to have to be in a lot of different places. Yep.
But if I can, the problem that I'm worried about is everybody's putting all of their money into instant articles and no longer writing their own blogs or creating their own content, posting on their own websites. And if for some reason they decide to charge or back charge, erase all the content.
Or get rid of instant articles entirely. Right, that could happen. Always keeping the as best-in-class experiences as on your own owned properties, because you're renting space from any one of these places. So you've got to be in both, but you've got to make sure that the experience on both is as good as it possibly can be on both channels. So if that means investing in infrastructure to improve your experience on your .com all the time, then that's what you've got to be doing. Because if any of those opportunities go away, right, and we've already seen this happen. We've seen the organic opportunities on Facebook plummet from, anywhere from 30 to 70% to sub 1%, because they want you to be paying for that space. They could do that at any point. So it behooves us to make sure that the experience that people are having, so that we can keep up with the times, that if that space goes away, or if we have to pay for it or back charge for it, that we're always prepared with our own owned experience. Keep going with the questions. I don't know. Yeah.
So with Instagram, you were showing your friends business and how it just stopped.
Yep. Correct.
So how do you make sure, if you're a designer or somebody who does graphics or maybe has your clothing, you're worried about what about the copyrights because you're signing away the rights?
You're giving away the rights. You're giving away the eyeballs and the ability for someone to take that and do whatever they want with them. And that's been happening. Like, creative work is going to be copied forever. It doesn't matter if it's the Etsy product or if it's a major label design company that then gets ripped off by like Nasty Gal or any one of the other clothing designers, Zara, Forever 21, you name them, H&M, right, that just takes designs from all the major design houses. That's going to happen. That's just the world we live in. Because the sincerest form of flattery that anybody can do is take from another place. There's no way that we're going to be able to ever combat that issue. But the platforms are taking steps to make that better. Facebook's investing in a huge amount of money in two places. One, to look at copyright issues, and two, to look at issues that are happening around some of the live video that's happening right now, such as you've seen murders and suicides and a bunch of other things. Those people are also going to be tasked with a lot of trademark and copyright infringement that's happening. There is not much I can tell you to get around those issues, other than put a watermark on your images or provide some sort of, layered, asset over your images, so that if anybody does take that image, at least you know that it's coming from you. That's all. How would I what? It is. I mean, it doesn't always work, but that's the only answer I have for you. I mean, these are legitimate concerns that are happening. Facebook's having to deal with this around video because people are ripping off YouTube videos and posting them as their own and getting organic reach from those. This is happening all the time. I will only say this. Hopefully, that leads to more opportunities for your company because people will look for these where the original source is, especially if you have huge brand advocates, and this is why it behooves us to create really, really strong ties with customers, because what you're seeing is when brands see other brands ripped off is they go and fight, or they at least make a big issue out of that brand. It's happened time and time again in fashion. It's happened time and time again in retail when we see these ripped off designs and people going after labels. Gap got done for it like 6 months ago. They pulled 4 products because they had been taken from another designer from Etsy. So if you're creating really unique pieces, one, things that are out there and that are original, and you have these strong brand advocates, these strong ties to customers, then hopefully when those experiences do happen, you can say, hey, that person, that brand is taking our work, and hopefully turn the mob mentality over to them because you've got those strong ties and bonds with those customers. We can come back, and I'm happy to continue chatting. Yeah.